say good morning, Belize, and good morning, and how are you this morning?
On a January morning in 2013, Belize City woke to a scene that stunned the nation. 4 men butchered inside a George Street apartment, their bodies discovered in the heart of a neighborhood long synonymous with power and fear. The massacre shook the streets, ignited rumors of state violence, and, some say, missed its main target by minutes: the reputed boss, Gerald Shiney Tillett. To understand the George Street murders, you have to understand the ecosystem. The George Street gang, rooted along George, Dean, and Plues streets, has been a central power on Belize City's Southside for decades. Part of a shifting landscape of cliques and rivalries, influenced by regional and U.S. gang dynamics. Reports over the years links Belize City's gang era to deportations and the import of Bloods/Crips culture, layered over local histories and turf disputes. In April 2012, a pivotal moment: the shooting death of George Street's then leader, Sheldon "Pinky" Tillett, at a gas station in the city.
Highway at the S.O. Ramon's gas station just before 11 on Friday night. It was inside this white Ford Ranger pickup truck that the George Street General, Sheldon "Pinky" Tillett, was executed. He parked his pickup at the entrance and went inside the store. When he got back into the vehicle, a man described as wearing a dread hat and a mask over his face came out of a silver Pathfinder, armed with a gun, and began firing shots inside the vehicle. According to one eyewitness, at least 13 shots were fired.
Hours later, rival figure Arthur Young, leader of Taylor's Alley, died in police custody under circumstances that remain controversial. Those 48 hours set the tone for what would follow: crackdowns, truces, and an uneasy peace that could snap without warning. Just after sunrise on January 8, 2013, 4 bodies were found inside the upper flat of an apartment at Dean and Plues streets: Leonard Ghost Myers, 30, Albert Long John Fuentes, 19, Kano Qualo, 40, and Anthony Perez, 28. Police found no signs of forced entry. Reports said the victims suffered multiple stab wounds and cut injuries. For a city inured to gunfire, the method, the precision, was chilling. Residents and associates immediately accused the police's gang suppression unit of state-sponsored execution, an allegation police denied. No one has been convicted. The killings are widely classed as unsolved. Over a decade later, it remains one of Belize's most debated crimes.
It's just a sight. The first body was covered in blood. My stepson, he laying in blood, you know? He had like dig outs on his face, whole throat missing. I seen it all, and you know when something was a statement. You understand? I believe it was a statement. You understand? And yes, by the police.
Most of the time that the GSU, they do the things them, but they don't want to sit up that the GSU doing the things them, you know? So we wish that they could find people in it and deal with them, you know?
Reporters invited inside days later documented the rooms. Down the corridor, Room 9, identified as the room of Gerald Shiney Tillett. He was not there that night. Another report notes that Myers was killed in Shiney's room. That detail fed an enduring theory on the street, that Shiney may have been the intended target, but wasn't home. Authorities never confirmed that theory. The massacre lit a fuse. Tensions boiled over, and leaders huddled with government officials. That same week, an unprecedented arrangement reportedly allowed Shiney and associates safe passage out of the city without police harassment to Gales Point, Manatee, a place they retreated to when the pressure surged. The move aimed to prevent retaliatory bloodshed while police cordoned off George Street. The then Prime Minister, Dean promised to provide answers as to what really happened that night.
Crisis that set in after the discovery of the bodies this morning is directly attributable to the rumor mill, to the fact that all sorts of false reports are circulated in the public domain, particularly on Facebook and to some extent in the media. And we need to make clear to the citizens exactly what happened and what did not.
From that point forward, Shiney spent more time away from the city, between Manatee and the Stand Creek district, surfacing in the coastal hub of Dangriga, where friends say he frequently had drinks and socialized at the Wadani shed. Shiney Tillett rose to leadership of George Street after Pinky's death in 2012. Reports at the time described George Street as an efficient, feared organization with influence over allied corners of the Southside. The group's long list of rivalries changed over the years, but the pattern held: perceived disrespect, territorial encroachment, and personal vendettas could escalate quickly, especially after high-profile killings. The 2013 murders deepened mistrust between citizens and the state and among gangs themselves. With no arrests and circulating theories of who could carry out such a precise operation inside Gaza territory, paranoia became policy. Meanwhile, police intensified patrols and curfews in a bid to keep a lid on reprisals. On the night of April 16, 2016, Shiney was in Dangriga, reportedly playing dice at the Wadani shed. It was his typical hangout spot and somewhere that he felt safe. However, a gunman approached and, with a killer's intention, shot him in the back of the head. As others ran, 2 more were wounded in the gunfire. Another person who was also on the scene at the time of the shooting took out his licensed firearm and shot the gunman. Police anticipated immediate retaliation citywide. Checkpoints and patrols surged. As for the motive, early reports said unknown, but many knew that Shiney had accumulated enemies over years of gang leadership.
I was sitting on my veranda, and then I saw a young man came in full black, stood behind him, took out a gun, and started fire shot.
We heard a noise, but we thought it was pop shot. But after realizing it was not pop shot, and we saw, like, you know, when they shoot, you got like a reflection on the bullet, like what light. So we saw the light, so we said, okay, now don't pop shot, that gunshot.
Mr. Tillett fell on the table, bleeding from his head. After that, he fell on the ground. But while he was on the ground, everybody else went in the wrong, they start to scatter.
A suspect, Nicholas Suazo, reportedly with connection to another Belize City Southside gang, was later charged, tried, and found guilty of Shiney's murder. In 2022, he received a life sentence. The court's decision closed one chapter, even as the broader cycle continued. Violence does not end with one killing, and in Belize, one killing more than likely leads to another. It is an endless cycle that has deprived many families of their loved ones. Many children grow up without that father figure they very much needed and turn to the street figures in their neighborhood to fill that role. In 2021, Shiney's teenage son, Gerald Tillett Jr., was shot and killed in Belize City, another link in a chain that binds families, blocks, and generations. Coverage framed him as gangster royalty, caught in a story that began long before he was born. Even as police tout periodic dips in murder rates, the human toll in Southside neighborhoods remains heavy. For every headline, there are mothers, partners, and children living with empty chairs at the table. The George Street murders became a symbol, not just of brutality, but of unresolved questions. Who ordered it? Who carried it out? And why has no one been held to account? Journalists and residents offered competing theories after the 2013 killings. Some accused elements of law enforcement. Others believed seasoned rivals executed a surgical strike. It's documented that Shiney's room was central to the crime scene and that he wasn't there. Facts that fueled the view he might have been the intended target. But without charges or a public case file, that remains speculation. After 2013, Shiney's pattern changed. Time in Manatee, time down south. Whether for safety, strategy, or both, that movement put him in different cross-currents. By 2016, in Dangriga, he was gunned down in a public space. A conviction says who pulled the trigger, but it can't tell us everything about why. Whether it was old feuds, new grudges, or the cumulative weight of a life at the center of Belize's gang conflicts. The George Street murders are a wound with a scar that never fully faded. If there's a lesson in these stories, it's that justice, trust, and opportunity are the only routes out of cycles like these, and that silence and impunity only guarantee a sequel. For now, the questions of what happened that night echo down Dean Plues, waiting for answers. If you have any information about any of these cases, contact Belize Crime Stoppers or the Belize Police Department. Be sure to like and subscribe to our page and tell a friend or a family member that loves these type of Belizean true crime stories. Until next time, thank you for watching The Beard Man.